If you kindly could accept the invitation of recording, that would be very much appreciated. And we would like to ensure you that this is the safe and respectful place for us to discuss and to bring our experience on the topic, and be mindful that the speakers that we invited to the panels today, they will share their lived experiences and their expertise on the areas that they work, but they don't necessarily present the organization that they work for, just to be mindful of. And if anyone not speaking, then we would like you to mute your mic so we can avoid the surrounding noise or any distraction. And any questions you can put in the chat box, and we can facilitate during and between the sections. Or otherwise, if you have questions, you just raise your hand so we can get you to speak. Yeah. About this topic, we, Dr. Charlotte, Winnie, and I have spent days and weeks conducting informal conversations and interview with migrant parents around Australia about their experience navigating school for their children, accessing services, and we found that people caring for their children a lot. Every parent wants their children to thrive at school, to be successful in life, and to live a meaningful life. So we thought this is really significant event for everyone to participate and to obtain the knowledge and skills that needed for them in this journey. So I go through the agenda of this workshop. So the first part, we do the introduction. Everyone will have a chance to introduce yourselves. The second part, we will lead you through the school selection process, which will be led by Dr. Charlotte, and then following with Winnie with bullying and discrimination at school, and curriculum change will be led by Dr. Charlotte, and I will lead you through the lived experiences from the panel speaker. And we will hope that at the end we have some time for the Q&A, and we do the poll to request your suggestion on helping us to improve for the future event. That will be very much appreciated. So now I will get over to Winnie, who will introduce our speakers today.
Thank you, Teresa. And thank you for everyone else who took the time to attend our meeting. We have some speakers who are rich in knowledge from different aspects of their professionalism or lived experiences. I'll start with this Dr. Alfred Mupenzi. I'll just mention you and then I'll later give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Dr. Alfred Mupenzi, we could take a few minutes to tell us something about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, School of Social Sciences, for organizing this. And I'm so proud to be in this space. Yes, I'm Alfred, and I work for Western Sydney University too. I put on 2 hats at Western, both a teacher and a professional worker. In my teaching, I teach in School of Education. So I'm in the right space, given the questions that you guys put up in the space. I teach teachers, and I also work for the Future Students Engagement and Advancement team. And so, yes, I will be here to share with you my experience. I work with schools, I work with current university students, and I work with community organizations. Over to you, Winnie.
Thank you, Alfred. And next we'll go to Melina, who I understand is a school principal. Melina, the floor is yours. Take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me along. I hope that I've got some knowledge that I can help you along the way with. So my experience has been in primary school, going from teacher to coordinator to assistant principal to acting principal, and then into the system, I've worked in the Catholic system as one of their leading teachers in behaviour and wellbeing and inclusive learning team. And currently I'm at Holy Family Primary School at Emerton as the wellbeing leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Madame Hong Vo, who is a parent and a social worker. Tell us something about yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Hong Vo. I probably been in Australia a little bit longer than you guys on the panel. I've been in Australia for like about 40 years. I have grown up children and now a grandma. So I have worked with I came here as a single person and established my family in Australia, in Melbourne. I'm coming from Melbourne. I work for City of Yarra. It's in suburbs, southeast of City of Melbourne, just next to City of Melbourne. So, and I work with the most vulnerable community in family and children services. I just retired. So I am no longer working there. Just in the last week, I retired last week, and now being home supporting and enjoying my little family. So with my experience, I never worked in the education system, but I work with a lot of people in education, including private in state school and the Victorian department, mainly primary and school age children, and also preschool children. That's a little bit of me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hong. Next we go to Mr. Oguna, who is currently a high school teacher. Mr. Oguna, take the floor.
Thank you, Winnie, and thank you, the team at Western Sydney University. It's a pleasure to be here to offer one or two things that the parents can benefit from. My name is Otieno Oguna, Kenyan born, and has been here for 27 years. I'm blessed that I had the opportunity to not only to train in Kenya and be a teacher in Kenya at different levels. And when I came to Australia, I'm in the education system, started with a public system in high school to TAFE, a little bit of the uni, and finally back to the high school. So at the moment, is a head teacher mathematics for the last almost 15 years. I'm blessed to have a family and children here as well. 4 children, 1 born in Kenya, and the other 3 born here, and they have gone through the system. So right now, it is my youngest, which is 15 years old, still in high school. The rest have gone through the system, and now they are in the workforce. One of the boys in this particular unit. So yes, I'm blessed to be here to offer a little bit of an insight for the rest of the parents and how we have dealt with some of the challenges as we move forward. So thank you very much. we are here to help if need be. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Guna. Next, we'd like to hear from Awal Akwil, who is our student perspective. Awal, please briefly tell us something about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Awal Akwil. I'm currently a university student. I'm attending Western Sydney University, studying Masters of Social Work as well. I'm in my final year and last semester as well, so I'll be finishing up with my degree soon. And I've gone through the schooling system most of my life here in Australia. My family's been in Australia for 20 years. And I started off in Year 2 all the way to, finished all the way till Year 12. And yeah, gone through university and all that. So I'm just here to, share some insight about my personal experience going through the schooling system in Australia. And I've got a unique perspective as well. I went to both, public school and private school as well. So I'm just going to share how my experience of both systems are, and also how my family as a whole as well kind of navigated through that system. My parents being immigrants as well to Australia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Awal. Next, we want to hear from Nicola. Nicola, please briefly say something about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicola. I work in the refugee space. So my family were refugees after the World War, and I'm helping to place refugee children into private schools and develop a program in private schools to increase empathy towards refugees.
Thank you so much, Nicola. Next, I would like to give the baton to Dr. Charlotte to take us to the next section. Thank you.
You have no Gianni.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
no. Apologies, Noah. All right, Noah, tell us something about yourself.
I just thought, oh yeah, luck of the draw, I don't have to introduce myself. That's okay. My name is Noah, and I am currently the multicultural education and community relations advisor for the department for high school students. And I came into this role after being a teacher for about 12 years. And through those years, I'd taken roles as stage advisor, SSC advisor, head teacher English, head teacher teaching and learning, head teacher well-being. So, and have worked mostly in the intensive English program for newly arrived students, and worked with different high schools in terms of like transitioning our students from the intensive English high school into high school. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Thank you, Noah. So Dr. Charlotte.
Yeah.
I'm like so big on my screen.
I'll remove you from the spotlight now, don't worry. Yeah, so we want to do the first topic, and this is on helping or supporting parents to make a decision on deciding where they should take their children to school. So Australia's education system, we have private, we have public schools, we have co-ed schools, we have single schools. So for a new person who has just arrived, it's very hard for them to actually make that selection or make that decision on where they should take their children to school, because we have all these choices, and it's very hard to know where should I actually take my child to school. Apart from obviously the paying school fees, that's really obvious. How do you, as people who are in different positions, how do you actually support parents to make the decision? When we did research, parents were saying they take their children to where their friends' children are, you know. Others were saying, oh, we just take our children to any school that is near our suburb, you know. And there are some parents who have actually decided to take their children, you know, have decided to shift to those good suburbs where, you know, they are, you know, good schools, good public schools, but then they are struggling to pay the rent, you know, very high prices there, and others are also struggling to even get a house there to be able to take their, you know, their children. So Jess, for example, is just arrived 3 years ago. She has a 6-year-old daughter, and she would love to take this child to, you know, she's making a decision on where she should take the child to, but then it's very hard for her to actually decide, you know, the school, and she's needing some information or some knowledge to guide her while making that decision. So I want to ask our panel, how do you advise parents, or what do you advise parents to do prior to selecting a school for enrollment for their children? And I'll start with, I can start with Alfred. As an educational consultant, what do you advise parents to do when they are deciding where to take their children to? So keeping in mind that millionaire question of private versus you know, public.
Thank you very much. And that's a good question to juggle with in this space, because we have many experts in the space. But I have come to learn from one thing, that I always start with a strength perspective when I'm speaking, because people have dealt with a lot of negatives. And I want to say that the Australian system of education actually has the same curriculum, whether in private or in public. Let's start from that perspective when we talk of the curriculum. And someone once told me that you get what you put in. So parents, first of all, have that responsibility of knowing that the Australian system of education is there to provide quality education. And actually that quality education is being provided. But there are some other dynamics that come along. Some schools have more funding through writing grants, and they may provide additional support. And some other schools are struggling financially in terms of providing all those eco services. But because we come from overseas with lots of perspectives and also lots of expectations, sometimes we fail to manage our expectations as parents. For example, I have juggled with so many parents, I've struggled with so many parents who put a lot of pressure on their kids when they are coming to university, that you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be. There is no space, but be this. And then I go back to them and I tell them that we are in the land of opportunities, where we don't need many lawyers as we used to, but more robotic scientists. So for example, information technology has taken the ride during the COVID times. So the first question we would ask the parents is, what are the aspirations you have for these children? And what do you want to get from school? And also the schools always have someone to talk to. I know that there are issues around behavior. I know that there are issues around differences in approach to education. But at the same time, I think the parents also have the first role to play to get out the quality education that they would want. As for the choice of private, public, that is a good choice. But as a teacher of teachers, most of my teachers have gone to public schools, and they are doing an excellent and a good job. I have never developed that biased concept against public. And I do have 4 children. 1 is in private, 3 are in public. And I find a little bit of difference in terms of discipline and in terms of content, how much they have to cover. But at the same time, I'm sure that they're all getting out something. We have to start from the strength perspective and acknowledge that the government is doing the best they can do in terms of providing education and services. I will come back just during the question and answer time, but let me give room to other panelists.
Thank you very much, Alfred, for for sharing that knowledge and experiences with us. Yeah, thank you so much, Alfred. I wonder if you can hear me. I see my internet. Is unstable. Can I draw from Mr. Oguna's experience as a school, as a school teacher, but also as a parent who has had children go through the Australian education system? What should parents be thinking about when they are thinking about making a decision around where to take their children to?
Thank you, Dr. Charlotte, as well as Alfred. Indeed, what Alfred has said should play a major part. From my experience, if I start from the parent's perspective, when we migrate to a country as a land of opportunity as Australia, we have different levels of migrants. You have the economic, the refugee, and those who just make a choice. Now, when you land here, I would recommend, from what I've gone through, that it does not matter which school you enroll your child in when you rock in. First point, they are providing a sound curriculum for all, and it is the same in both private and public, as Alfred has said. Two, I want parents to think of a school as a community. And that's one thing that most parents don't think about. And ask yourself, what kind of a community would you want your child to grow in? The school's role is basically to provide education. And that is, you hope your child will be able to be numerate, literate, to function in the society. And I believe in Australia, from what I've seen as a parent living in the North Shore, living in the Western Sydney, and in the Southern Highlands, all schools are providing that. If you want to go to the next level and now work out, whatever school you choose, private or public, would I want my child to grow up to take responsibility for themselves and have some basic ethics? That is where now the choice becomes a little bit complex. We know the public school has that responsibility. They cannot manage all of that. Private schools have a leeway. They are helping the government to provide education, and they have a choice. I can choose to subscribe to, for example, to the Christian ethos, whether it is a Catholic system, an Anglican system, or non-denominational, or a Muslim. So it means that school is going to reinforce the faith based on that, in addition to providing your child with the basic skills of education. So that's the second level where the parent has to come in.
Did we lose Mr. Oguna?
The decide your child. Now, from my experience as a parent, I've found out that the difference coming in is because in a private system, you have to make additional payment. And that forces the parents to think about their children and ask, what did you learn? How are things going? So the parents become active. Our immigrant parents, there are two sets. There are those extreme parents who care too much and they want to direct, as Alfred has just said. You are looking at what will my child be at the end of it, a doctor, an engineer, or an accountant. So they are so focused and onto the extreme. On the other hand, we have among our migrant parents, what I've seen, those who care less. The school will do everything for my child. Whether the child comes home with a swear word, that's a school problem. So that is what comes in. Those extremes is what our migrant parents should avoid. Because in education, you are nurturing, you are growing your child to be able to function in the society where they find themselves. Just as simple as most of us who are here, our parents provided those opportunities wherever we grew up in. And now we can function in this system. Right? That is what we want to provide our children, and that starts with the parent. And that is what I've tried to inculcate in my children, that it doesn't matter which school you go into, but when you go to school, this is what I want you to learn about as you move forward. So the parent must be an active, very active in the education of their child, whether private or public. But you choose private based on the faith you want, as well as whether you have the dollars to put in, because that's an additional, and that additional brings in additional things. That's where your child might have the opportunity to be involved in a performance, for example, or they might have private tutoring within the school. So that is where that additional funds come in. You can still do that within the public, and I'm a strong supporter of public, even though right now I'm in the private, because you can do those outside the school. And that's what this land of opportunity provides to us. I don't know whether that gives you some perspective. Now, the second bit, as a teacher, as administrator, who have managed the teachers as well, and more importantly, in a subject that many of us don't want to touch, very negative out there, the mathematics. Now, the problem we have from a teacher's perspective, as a migrant, some of you would agree with me, most of the migrant children are very numerate, because you come from wherever you came from, where you are using your brain as a tool to think mathematically, and the teachers forced most of the migrants to know their basic times table. Now you come in here where most of the kids are not in that, don't have that foundation. And then it becomes, maths becomes a negative thing. Now, as a teacher, I would encourage our parents and any migrant to tap on what they have already, that strong foundation, and nurture their kids to move forward. And you can do that both in public and private, but you have to be deliberate, because your child will go to school, will meet different teachers, and your child will probably find themselves with a peer group that are very negative depending on the subject, and you have no idea why. So your child comes home and decides, I don't like that. You as a parent ask why. And you as a parent direct the child, because the child is seeking info, being influenced outside, positively and negatively. Predominantly, most of them are negative, and therefore the kid wants to fit in. So that's, as an educationist, I would encourage our parents to make the right decision together with the teacher. Go on and find out. The teacher is there, particularly in the public system. They want to do the best for the children.
Throw it away.
Day in, day out. If you are looking for dedicated teachers, irrespective of which school they are in the public system. and more so qualified when you go to the senior schools. But the work they do in our system here is not appreciated depending on the area where they are as much. In the North Shore, it is very strong. You go to the Western Sydney where we are, Southwest, it's very minimal. To them, the teacher is somebody to fight with. If a kid tells me this from school, the teacher is the problem. And if your kid comes with that, you as a parent, you got to make an effort to discuss with the teacher for the betterment of your child. So I'll leave it at that. Hopefully it has answered some few questions, but we can come back to it at a later stage. Thank you, Dr. Shah. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Uduna. It has answered a lot of questions, and I think as parents, grandparents, I think we are actually seeing our role here. It's not about sending our children and we forget about it. I think our involvement is still very important. Can I ask from a school principal's perspective, Melina, what should we be thinking about when we are making the choice of public-private?
I agree with what's already been said. I just want to clarify one thing, and that is that all Catholic schools aren't private schools. So you actually have a private level, and then those Catholic and Anglican their school fees aren't as high as some of the private ones. So that's a bit of a difference, because that throws another thing in for people that don't understand a system to try and navigate as well. I think one thing that sometimes is misunderstood is the school fee thing. And I can only speak from a Catholic school perspective, because that's all I've worked in. But fees don't stop a child being enrolled. So there can be fee discounts if you've got financial hardship. All you need to do is speak to the principal. I've had parents that have paid no school fees whatsoever. I worked in Mount Druitt at one of the schools there, and we had a huge population of refugee children. Most of them did not pay school fees. So there are those provisions around that. I think, just to add to what everyone else has said, I think when you're looking for a school too, it's important to go and visit them. When you walk into a school, you get a feel, whether it's community, what the children are like. Do the children come up in the playground and say hello to you as you're walking with the principal around? So I think actually going on a walk around, go to the local schools. You can go to all of them and find out about that school, look at their websites, and know what you want from a school. Do you want your child to be in one school from kindergarten all the way through to year 12? Or would you like them to change in the middle? I think those things are important. Do you need before and after school care? And you want it on the premises, because some of our schools have them on premises. And I think too, enrollments is something, there's a lot of paperwork with enrollment. And once you've decided, and I know I always would sit with parents and help them if they needed help to fill those in. Not everyone will do that, but mostly someone will help you with them, because they're not easy forms to fill in. And I think that is a problem with education generally. The enrollment process, once you've decided, is actually hard to navigate as well. And they start in May in our schools. So people start enrolling in May. But I think it's about visiting, looking for those things. Do you want, like everyone else has said, do you want Catholic education? Because the curriculum is the same. And I believe there's good teachers in both systems, and there's those ones that aren't as great. Just like any job, you get great and you get not so great. And the real difference for me is, and like I said, I haven't worked in a state school, so I can't speak, but from my perspective, Catholic schools, it's that building of community, and it's the Christian values that are coming through all the time. But apart from the standard curriculum, it's the same.
I would come to you, Hong. As a parent, what really worked for you? What worked when you were selecting where to take your children to? Hong?
Say that again.
Hong, Mrs. Hong?
Hong.
Yeah, Mrs. Hong. From a parent's perspective, what worked for you when you were deciding where to take your children to?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry that I missed it.
Yeah.
But I feel really impressed with especially, you know, Alfred and Aguna, to give us very a good perspective, or very unbiased and very objective. And I do agree with all about us, you know, like Alfred, Aguna, and Melina, that, you know, the curriculum is the same or similar. And the great thing here in Australia is the government. I think with primary and secondary, the state government monitors the system very well. They resort the state school and the private school. I think not evenly, but I mean reasonably to me. So it for me, I think, and I agree that we to support the parent. I think we need to take into account that we all have our own values and our own bias. Yeah. So I think it is good to support the parents to do their homework, like Melina said, you know, to pay a visit, to go on the website, to look out for their written material, hard copies of brochures, or even request a tour from the school, meeting with people. So they visit the school, they can look at the environment, whether it is friendly, welcoming, and acknowledging the culture of your family or your ethnic group clearly. And the school community members, the children and the students, and I think it's and other resources like bilingual staff. I think in this panel we are quite lucky. We are all migrants, but we are fortunate to have reasonable level of formal education, whereas majority of migrant families, I work with people who didn't have any formal education experiences at all. So I think supporting them in person or with audio resources, written material, quite critical as well. And I think it, like Melina said, that it is the Catholic system is considered private, but there are a lot of nurturing for or supporting family with low income. And I work with the area that I know that the Catholic Education Department pours so much of resources in. However, I think it is only another thing I want to add on is that migrants, parents in striving for their children to achieve highly in education, and a lot of them, because and they don't, and in families they do have so many competing needs in their journey of resettlement. So doing enough homework is not easy to make a good decision that best suit the family. That's how I say. So I think it is good to support them to understand. People do believe that, you know, if they provide more resources, then they do better. They provide more better for their children. Like, you know, if they go to a Catholic school or a private school, it is telling that they are more committed to their children's education. That's how I think. So they have to take into account that, you know, religious school like Catholic or even Anglican school, grammar, for example, do have a lot of religious education. So the values is part of the faith. The school is part of the Catholic system. So the faith, the Catholic faith is the influence. And we have to keep in mind that, you know, along the way, sometimes they can afford the primary education in Catholic system, but later on, with many children in the family, they can't really afford the fee from secondary education, for example, including uniform and on top of that, books and other things. I think that is how I am concerned, but I have to advocate. I have to work with a lot of school to support the parents and the school as well, with the school fee and uniform and things like that. And I think extra curriculum is another thing. We need to support the parents. We are gonna comment that, you know, people can still do extra curriculum in the state school, out of school time, or even in the school, like music or art or whatever. I want to add on with special needs. The parents, I work a lot with specialist development school, where the children do have additional needs, like children on the spectrum or having cognitive learning difficulties. And I think that how we can support the parents to eliminate their stigmatization. People, if the children have special needs, the parent feels stigma. The stigma there, the parent feels stigmatized. And that needs to be supported and resort them to make decision on whether going to special school or not. There are alternative specialist school, and also with the talent, the children with a lot of talents, how we can support them to make progress or to reach their potential. That's how I think I like to add on. I want to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Mrs. Hong, as from a social worker's perspective, but also a parent. So no, I will come to you and I will ask you about the other pathways that are available, because we know most migrant parents think about uni and they think about mostly two professions, a lawyer and a doctor. But I think we can bust those myths today and at least have a discussion apart from uni, what else is there? What other options are there for our students here in Australia? But I want to come to you, Awar. I know you have organized school for your siblings, but then you have also been, in this school system. Could you share with us from a student's perspective, which school did you go to? And what do you think, what was your experience in that school, Awar?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You cut out for a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm asking from a student's perspective, which school did you go to, and what was your experience in that school? And then Noah will tell us about the other pathways after school.
Yeah. So I started off at a Catholic school, so it's kind of like it was private but public, like semi, I think. So I started off at that school for most of my primary schooling. And I personally found it really challenging just because the classes were really big, and, coming from a non-speaking English background, at times I wasn't provided that support that I needed, that one-on-one support. So that's one thing that I found challenging. And that was kind of one of the reasons that our parents decided to move us, was to go to a school that was a lot more smaller and a bit more supportive. So that was one of the reasons. And the second reason was because my parents were Baptist as well. or they are Baptist. So they wanted to take us to a school that kind of aligned up with their values as well. So that was the second reason. So then in, my last year of primary school, I went to a private school, and it was a Baptist school. And I went from year 6 all the way to year 12. And I personally thrived in that school because the classroom environments were very, very small. There were 6 people in a class. So very, very tiny. And I found that was very supportive. And that's how I thrived in the educational system, I guess. So I had a lot more positive experience because of the classroom environment. And my siblings as well thrived in that environment because there was a lot of one-on-one support and a lot of not a lot of distractions as well, because I noticed my sister a few years ago went to a public school, and she found it really, really challenging because the classroom dynamics were 30 students, and she found it really, really distracting. So having those small classroom environments really supported us in that way. So I would say that is one of the benefits of private schools, is the classrooms are a lot more smaller from my personal experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And have you had issues at uni? So having studied from that small environment, and here you are at uni, and you have a class of maybe 100 or so, and you're in a tutorial group of 30 or 50 people. Have you found challenges?
Yeah, so that was the disadvantage, I would guess. I had to really push myself to get out of my comfort zone, and it took me a while. It was probably in my 3rd year university where I kind of came out of my bubble a little bit. But yeah, kind of having growing up in small classroom environment made it really challenging for me to kind of be a lot more outspoken when needed, or even be able to handle conflicts and challenges, because I didn't really have that in my school. There was 5 people in my classes and we all got along really well. So coming to university where you had challenges with your classrooms, with your your classroom mates, or sometimes with the teachers, and that I found it really hard to be able to deal with those challenges. So it definitely took me a while to kind of wrap my mind around it and come out of my comfort zone a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So is there any advice there for parents who would want their children to be in those small, at least small classrooms, but then wouldn't want their children to go through what you're going through at uni? How do we have the balance there?
I would say the balance is maybe getting your kids to do extracurricular activities. I think that would have really helped me, is maybe joining sport, or doing things outside of school that so exposes you to meeting different types of people, being in different groups and different social groups and all that stuff. That would have definitely helped me come out of my bubble a lot more. But it's hard as well, growing up in a family of 5 as well. It can be really hard for parents to be able to take their kids to curricular activity outside of school. My parents really wanted us to do that, but found it really challenging because there's 5 of us kids in the family. But if you do have a small family, and if it's possible to sign your kids up to sport or other activities outside of school, to just for them to be a bit more social and push them out of their comfort zone, I think that would definitely help them if they go to a school that is very, very small. So then it kind of helps them transition to university, and it's not like a culture shock, and that's what it was like for me. I was oh, there's 30, there's sometimes 100 people when we have so it was very, very, very overwhelming for me. But yeah, having that would have definitely helped me a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's very, very helpful. I want to go to Noah, and this is the last question on this topic. After school, what happens? Apart from uni, apart from college, what other options are there for migrant parents and their children? And then Winnie will hand over to you to do the bullying.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for this question. It's a tough one, and I think I'll have to tag on what Alfred and Oguna said earlier, that oftentimes migrant parents try to push their kids to, this direction, this is what you're supposed to do, and that you have to finish high school. From high school, you have to go directly to university. And I think what we try to advise, and we talk to careers advisors in schools that, and we encourage parents to engage with careers advisors at school and teachers who teach their kids to kind of have an understanding of where their kids are, what their kids' abilities are, and to understand and accept the fact that there's not one path to whatever. Yes, you may want your child to be a lawyer, but so oftentimes they may not have the skills, they may not have the language as they finish high school to be able to tackle, the rigors of tertiary education. Therefore, they need to, instead of going from A to B, they need to go A1, A2, and then go the other way to get to B. So it is important for parents to understand that there's no one pathway to, and there's TAFE options, and TAFE options are quite good, giving students qualifications of certificate 1 up to certificate 4. And I think it is important to recognize that there's value in those certificates, and there's value in getting that vocational education training. It is important. It can support kids. It can give them that transition. Sometimes kids are not ready to go to university. They're not emotionally, they're not cognitively ready to go to high school, but then getting that maybe certificate and getting a job for a year or two and doing that for a little bit, and then deciding where they need to go after that, it might be a very good option for them. So in our role in working with schools and working with teachers is trying to get them to have those conversations with parents, to engage with parents, to let them know that these options are available, and it's not a sign of failure in their child to take those options, because those options are available, and then they may eventually become the doctor that the parents want them to be, if that's what the kid wants, if that's where the kid's skills are. It is important for them to understand that. So I think I'll stop at that.
Thank you very much. And it's also good to know that in the Department of Education, there's that kind of support where parents can have conversations around different options. So it's good to know that. I'll hand over to Winnie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Charlotte. I will take us through how to deal with bullying and discrimination within the schools. So we know that bullying and discrimination has adverse effects on the students, and it trickles down to the parents. And these effects can last for a long time or throughout their lives, like lack of self-confidence, anxiety, illnesses, among others. So the definition of bullying is broad, but generally we can say there's physical bullying, like hitting and pushing, verbally, that's verbal bullying, like insults or racist remarks, social bullying, like excluding others from participating in an activity. And then there's cyberbullying. Now it's very common, especially in schools that allow mobile phones. So I think I will direct my question to the principal, Miss Melina, who can tell us the different opportunities that are there in the school that support children who are going through bullying and discrimination, and how they, if a child is not brave enough to stand for themselves and speak and say, I'm being bullied, do the teachers recognize the signs of bullying? And also what other opportunities parents or other areas how parents can who they can address to school with concerns on their children being bullied and discriminated. Thank you.
All schools should have an anti-bullying and discrimination policy to start with. And they'll have one as a system. So I know the Catholic Education have one. I'm sure New South Wales Department of Education have one as well. And then we formulate ours from that. For us, the first port of call for bullying, it's a no-go zone. It's not acceptable. Most our teachers recognise it, and if the children do speak up, they deal with it immediately. If they feel it's an issue that's not being resolved, they'll pass it up the line to whoever might, up to the assistant principal or to me or to the principal at the time. So the first port of call would always be the child's going to tell their parent, go straight to the school and let the classroom teacher know what's happening. If they do the right thing, and I can't speak for other teachers, I would immediately address that. If you feel that the classroom teacher hasn't, then you go to the office and ask to speak to your assistant principal or your principal, because the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. And if it's happening to your child, it's likely to be happening to other children as well. So the quicker it can be stamped out, the better. And if you're not happy with, once it gets to the principal and what they've done, then you would go to your department. In my case, you go to the Catholic Education Office, or you go to the Department of Education and lodge a formal complaint. It's really important that the child that's being bullied or there's being discrimination against doesn't feel that they've done something wrong. And I think that's really, really important. And often what I will do is put a wellbeing plan in place for them. So for instance, a child that told us they were being bullied, they actually were worried and had huge anxiety about coming in the school gate. So myself or their classroom teacher would meet them every morning, and we'd have a chat to them on the way in. And eventually we could go away from that and we'd link them up with a friend, and then their friend met them. So it's about being really proactive around that. Also need to run some social skills groups around that, and some skills groups around people that are, we need to work with the bully as well, because the bully has something going on for them, as well as the children that are being bullied. Because if you don't work with the actual bully, they just go from your child to the next child. So I think they're really important things. We do a bullying audit once a term. So I give all the children in the entire school from kindy through to year 6 a map of the school. And we do lessons on bullying and how you can stand up and say no. But they get a map of the school and they can colour in areas of the school where they are being bullied. And some children will say, well, I'm not being bullied, and there isn't any racist comments, and that's great. Children that do colour in areas, we can then go back and dig a little bit deeper and find out what is happening. Some of the kindies have trouble understanding bullying, and they said, I don't feel safe because I fell over there. So you can sort of go, okay, and then you can talk to the parents and let them know that it's not, from what your child said, they're not actually being bullied, it's that they've been knocked over by somebody. So I think that open communication is really important. Also, we have school counsellors and liaison officers. So at one school, not where I am now, but where I was, we had a Sudanese interpreter. So he was our liaison officer, and he spoke Dinka, so he could do a lot of our liaising for us. But I think it's about being proactive and really going to the school and letting them know that this is not okay, because every child should feel safe when they come to school. And we need to work with those children that are the bullies, because they need to know that it's not okay what they're doing as well. So we try to do a lot of lessons around that.
Thank you. And we will also like to know, who would the parents speak to, and who the children would speak to, especially if the bullying is coming from a position of power, like the school principal or the assistant principal. We have had incidents even where students of placement are bullied in schools, but it's coming from a place of power, so they feel intimidated and they don't know who to run to. So how do you think the parents who are discriminated when they come to like the parent meetings and those kind of activities within the school?
I'm firstly appalled that anyone in leadership would actually be discriminated against a parent. I think that is just, they're in the wrong job to be doing that. If it's a class teacher that's discriminating or is being quite, I suppose, trying to use their power, I would be going straight to the principal. If it is a principal or assistant principal, then you would contact either the Department of Education or the Catholic Education Office, whatever system you're in, and lodge a formal complaint against that person, because that's not okay. They are in a position of privilege. I see my job as teaching children as being really privileged. And yeah, everyone should be treated with respect. I get quite upset when parents come in and teachers, for want of a better word, they dumb down what they're saying. They make it really basic and they speak slower to the parent. And I often say to them, the parent is a refugee or the parent is a different nationality. They're not silly. You don't have to speak like that to them. Talk to them. They'll tell you if they don't understand something. Yeah, I find that it's almost a passive way of being discriminatory when you're talking down to a parent. So yeah, I would be going straight to the top, to your department. If it's your principal, if it's a class teacher, straight to the principal and let them know, because that's not okay.
Thank you. And I'll direct my next question to Mr. Noah. Given that the bullying reports from the school may be directed to the Department of Education, so how does the Department of Education go about addressing those bullying and discrimination issues?
Actually, I was going to add something to what Melinda had said there as well, that there are all schools in New South Wales are required, or government schools anyway, are required to have somebody who's called an anti-racism contact officer if there are issues of that. And you do have, and that is the person that students can go to and report incidents of racism to if they're uncomfortable talking to their classroom teacher or anybody else in the class. But there's also, like Melinda said, there's school counselors, there's stage advisors, there's head teachers, and all those people that the student can go to. For example, if I'm being bullied by my math teacher, then I can go to the head teacher maths, to report that this is happening. The teacher and if I'm bullied by my English teacher, I can go to the head teacher English and report that this is happening. If there is no anti-racism contact officer in the school, then that I can go to those people. So yes, once, and the department usually tries to have issues of either racism or bullying managed at the school level. But if they're not being managed well at the school level, then yes, they can be escalated to the department, where there is, for the New South Wales Department of Education, there's a website, a web page where parents can lodge complaints of racism or bullying or whatever to the department, and that gets then taken up by, we've actually just formed a new directorate now, which is called Parent and Student Experience Directorate, which is going to be looking at complaints particularly and trying to work and how those complaints are resolved, and to make sure that they're resolved amicably and in due time, not taking too long. So at the moment, that directorate is just being, and the processes of dealing with complaints is being refined, and the form that parents can use or are supposed to fill out to lodge that complaint is also being refined to make it more accessible, to make sure that all parents can fill that form out and it's easy for them to understand what they need to say and where the form is, they can access that form as well. So there are processes in place, and oftentimes when there are issues of racism, then my team usually gets some of those complaints and we forward some kind of response or advice to to the schools in terms of like how that can be dealt with, and where and the kind of support system that needs to go in, and the kind of training that needs to go in for the teachers and the school, and like Melinda said, you have to deal with the person who's experienced the racism or the bullying and the person who's perpetuating that behavior. Therefore, what structures need to be put in place to support all those people to handle? Yeah, of course, I mean, recently there have been issues of where issues have not been handled very well, and it's been escalated into the media, etc., etc. That's not how, that's not the best way the department would like to see things managed. So we're looking into those structures in terms of like, how do we support schools better? How do we empower schools, or how do we give support to schools in a way that enables them to empathetically and kind of like in a way that helps them support students and resolve these kinds of issues. So I'm not quite sure if I answered your question as clearly as I could have, but
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Noah, for that. My next question, I'll want to hear a student perspective, where students have been told, go to the counselor, go to the school chaplain, go to the teacher, go to the principal. So do you think that these avenues were effective in dealing with complaints and issues of bullying and discrimination?
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Given that the school has given avenues where students can go and give the grievances regarding bullying and discrimination, like they can go to the counseling team, they can go to a teacher, they can go to a principal. So as a student, did you think these avenues were effective in dealing with bullying and discrimination issues within the school?
I personally never used it, but they were there. I guess when I was a student, there wasn't enough, what's the word? We just weren't aware of it, I guess. Like, we knew it was there, but it was never kind of like told us regularly, like, oh, there's a school counselor that you guys can go to. So I guess, like, in regards to it being accessible, not really. Like, it was there, but like we were never kind of like pushed or told that it was there, if that makes sense. Yeah, sorry.
All right.
And
Thank you.
yeah, I would like to add that and say that, yes, that is sometimes the issue, where services are available, but schools aren't promoting those services to students and making students aware that this is available for you to use, and it is okay for you to use these services. And so I think one of the things that we're trying to do, especially with the ARCO, is trying to get the schools to promote that more actively, to ensure that students know who the ARCO is, what the ARCO's responsibilities are, what they're able to do, how they can be of support to the students. So it is a valid point that, even sometimes students don't know who the counselor is. You send them to go see the counselor. Who's the counselor? They don't know they don't even know where the counselor's office is. So I think it is important. That's a good point that Awa has pointed out there.
Well, okay, it's good to hear that the schools should put more emphasis in directing the kids where they can access help. And this also leads me to how the school curriculum has been known to emphasize some aspects of discrimination. And as a social worker, I understand the language and the discourse should be used to empower students, and it should be anti-oppressive and anti-traumatic. So however, the curriculum is very westernized. It uses a westernized approach. So for example, we find like when the students are taken to school excursions, and for example, if it's an excursion where there was enslaved people, we find like the story is twisted so that the child would say something like, there was this rich man, he had lots of servants. So my question is what changes and if parents can be involved in like changing the curriculum without diminishing the history, like to give the voice to other cultures. And I think, Noah, you can address this question, please.
Before I address that, I think there's somebody who has their hand up. I'm not quite sure if they wanted to respond to a different question or not. It just says Samsung SM9. I'm not quite sure who that person is. So.
Hi, it's Jan. My name is Jan. My question was more around accessing support for bullying, especially for parents. in the event of a parent who is illiterate in their own language and they cannot fill forms or information online, is there any line they can call, and would they be able to access interpreters in
Yes, within the department, there's interpreter service. So if a parent needs interpreting services, they can request the school to provide that, but they would have to actually call ahead to make sure that that interpreter service is available when they need to have that conversation with the school. So yes, interpreter services are available, and schools are encouraged to use interpreter services when it is required of them, when the parent is not able to do that. They're not literate, they can't read the information, they prefer to have it spoken, so that is available.
Sorry for that. How about on a department level? If the discrimination was more on a school level and the parents want to go further and they want to access support with the department, is there any legal line they can call directly just for discrimination or for bullying matters?
A line that they can call directly, not, let me see. I'm not quite sure if there's a line that they can call directly, but they can reach out. Yes, they can reach out through the interpreter service to get through to the department. And then the department can work with them that way. Because I think if they're calling directly to the department itself does not have, the lines of the department do not have interpreter services. So they wouldn't be able to communicate with the person directly. So if they go through the interpreter service, then they can get through to the department that way.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so the question was in terms of the curriculum. I think oftentimes it is important for teachers to build the field around whatever topic that they need to, that they're presenting to the kids. Even if you're taking kids on an excursion, you need to build the field around that, make sure and have an understanding, I think, of who your kids are in the classroom, what cultural backgrounds are there, and what the impact. We have to kind of, you have to look at what impact is this lesson or is this unit of work going to have on different students in the classroom. How are they going to be impacted by that? And in your planning, mitigate that impact to ensure that, yes, it may be a controversial topic that you're bringing up, but you're bringing up in a way that everybody who engages with the topic comes out of that feeling empowered, feeling valued, feeling that their experience was not minimized or was not ridiculed, and that the lesson itself has not opened the door for ridicule or open the door for further re-traumatization, as you were talking about. So it is the responsibility of the teacher to do that. And in what we what is called, and for the teacher to, which is part of the Australian curriculum, intercultural understanding, that the teachers have to develop that capability within their students of intercultural understanding and an appreciation and understanding of the experiences and the valuing of the experiences of other people, and putting themselves in the shoes of other people to understand where the other people are coming from. So it is part of the curriculum, and it is not enforced. It is recommended that teachers put that in as part of their units of work, to embed intercultural understanding within their work. So, and provide something that is currently, the nomenclature is, culturally responsive teaching, that acknowledges, those experiences of other people. So as I know, I think that's where the department is pushing. That's where the department is pushing. And if teachers aren't doing that, it's for the principal to be looking at the curriculum that the teachers are producing and saying, no, there's something that's missing in this, that you're not doing properly. Can you go back and redo and incorporate this into that curriculum? The principal, the head teachers, and the deputy principals who are looking at teachers programs need to be doing that to ensure that the re-traumatization of students does not occur.
Thank you, Noah. Because of time, we'll take more questions in the question and answer session. So for now, we move on to the next session where Teresa will take us through. Thank you.
Before we move on, I think Ms. Hong wants to say something about the previous topic.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. I think part of my interest is something more positive, more proactive, or we call early intervention. Because when Melina and Noah talk about policy and a lot of steps put at the school to deal with the issue, I think if we consider how to develop the physical school environment and how to help the school community, that means our students and our parents, to feel that their cultural, their religious belief and practices are valued, and so they feel proud of themselves. They feel that they are. This is what I'm talking about: connectedness or sense of belonging. And so, like we do cultural event or some workshop to the student to talk about their culture or to share. In particular, their food, their music, their costume, their history, a lot of art pieces, things like that. I think that develop more connectedness, and that can help bridging the gap. That's how I see it. So yeah, that is what I wanted to add on. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I do understand that school have different activities on promoting the multicultural aspect. But the thing is, we want the parents to understand the importance of those events and take their children to attend those events and in a way that assisting them to develop their confidence and their development during the school time. So yeah, thank you very much, Hong. I'll talk to you.
I think that also, when the children and the parents do feel confident enough, they can accept to mutual support from their peers, like the student to talk to other students, the parent to talk to other parents. And I think we need to take into account how to facilitate referral or advocate for them to reach out for influential community leaders, including the parents and the especially the religious leaders as well. Because I think a lot of migrant parents do have very strong faith, and they are strongly influenced by religious leaders. That's how I say, and other influential community leaders. That's how I say. Thank you. That's all.
Just on to you, Charlotte.
Teresa, you actually need to do the lived experiences, and then we can finish here.
All right. So we thank you for sharing on the topics that we brought. We believe that no model is suitable for everyone. So no approach, not one approach that suits everyone. So we believe that lived experiences are really important to be shared and to pass on the other generations or the parents in taking care of children or navigating the education system for children. So I would like to throw this question based on your social work career and as a parent as well, Hong. Do you have like strategies that you applied for your children, or you use during the educating your children? What strategies that worked well for you and for your children, and what did not work well, so we can learn from your experience?
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. That is a very good question, but it's a very difficult question for me as well, because I think, yeah, everybody try to do their best, but as I said earlier, that we always have what we call competing needs in the family, between family members, and I found that it's so critical at the time of each transitional step, like when the children start primary, secondary, and finish high school, how to support them to make decisions is really difficult. And I found that sometimes, yeah, I think, yeah, it's our own values and it's our own resources. When you look back, sometimes you thought, I thought yeah, the kids will reflect, you know, your influence actually not the best for me, for example. And that is difficult, because I think we believe that we do our best for the kids, but you know, sometimes not really knowing what the kids want or how they like Noah said, that you know, everybody wants the kids to be lawyers and doctors and things like that. That's all the migrant parents know. But I think sometimes children have talents in other areas like music or sport, and or art in particular, and we don't really support them to reach their best potential, and that can be a regret, I think. When we look back, okay, we make decisions for our children based on our own values and our expectations. That's it. And another thing I want to add on the thing with accessibility, like we talk about the welfare teacher, for example. I think it is important for us as teaching and non-teaching staff at school, in school, to develop connection with the children. Like everybody can be presented at the playground. We can roster that. So kids develop relationship in happy environment with their teaching or non-teaching staff, so they can reach out whenever they need. I think when we talk about bullying, it's really difficult thing, and it can cost so much. And without providing friendly, welcoming, inviting environment, we can miss out a lot. Yeah, that's how I say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your sharing. I appreciate that. And move on to another question, which Hong also mentioned. If you win back the clock, that what would you have done differently in supporting children and guiding them through the process? So I would like to ask Mr. Uguna if you have something to share with us.
Could you please repeat the question?
So we know that you have children that you have been directing them or navigating them, the school system for them. So in doing that, do you have anything like sometimes you think that if the time go back, you could have done something differently than what you have done for your children?
Thank you very much. It's a very important question, and I'll only give you my perspective on reflecting where I've come from and where I am. The first one is to connect with a question that was put through with regard to imposing our wishes on the kids. I would say as a parent, you are the backbone, you have the roots, and you can see far beyond what the kid can see. So there is a myth that you let the kids do whatever they want or whatever interest they have, yet they have not been exposed to identify the details of what they see or what is they're exposed to. So from my perspective, I would encourage any prospective parent, particularly in the Australian system, you need to expose your kids to different areas beyond the school, whether it is in manufacturing, whether it is in medical, whether it is in business. And this can be done during the holidays. It could be done using friends, so that the kids are exposed to the different things that they can aspire to, such that when it comes to making informed decision, the kid can be able to at least point you in the right direction. But it is you who needs to set that. Now, our curriculum is based on giving our children the basic education, reading, writing, the foundational skills. That's what primary and high schools are doing. And every child should go through all that. You need to make sure your child goes through and complete year 12, because they need to know how to do all the basic stuff, to read, interpret, critically think. But that is the school's job. You as a parent, expose them beyond the school. Don't leave it just to a fun activities that we have as part of excursion. Now, the second thing I would do differently, because for me, I didn't worry so much because I've been a teacher. This is my 34 years teaching. So I knew what I wanted for my children and I tried to direct them in that direction. What I would do differently at the moment, particularly when the kids are in high school, is to go beyond the school community and try and get my kids to integrate with our community a lot more so that they can learn to navigate the challenges of university and beyond. I'm saying that because my daughter finished University of Sydney 3 years ago doing biomedical engineering. And the conversations we had when she was in the uni is that she felt protected in high school, because I did send her to the Christian school, where the number in the classes were coming to a maximum of 25. And there were boundaries all the way through. But when she went to the University of Sydney, it was like you're thrown into the maze. And some of the things that were coming to her, the beauty is I was able to share with her because we could talk a lot. She chose the path that it's more mathematical, so she could still help her with the uni work and discuss. So we could discuss those things in our own way. But what I found out is that from her experience, it was amazing that she sympathized with most of other migrant children. They were more or less swept, and you find majority either did not finish, and those who finished struggled. And that's what goes on with a lot of our migrants. For her, she had a place to come home and debrief. So if I was to do things differently, I would put a lot of emphasis on exposing my child out there where you are still there as a parent to guide, be it in school, be it in the little athletics, anything that would expose them and help them manage the real society. Because that is one thing we cannot protect our kids from. You have to train them to navigate it, but not to protect them from it, because you will not be there. Now, in terms of the content, my third point, which I would really encourage every parent to think about. We don't do that a lot as a migrant. While they're in primary school, they're in high school, at least make an effort to dig deeper into what the children are learning in school and support them by providing, for example, the text to read. In this day and age, I've seen a lot of the younger children. I have my daughter now, and of course the young boys, Western Sydney Uni. Most of their time was spent on the screen and the video things, which when I reflect on, I should have been a little bit more serious with, the same way I did with my elder children. It was very clear for them that there is a limit for the screen, and not just the screen, for the type of thing they're exposed to with their friends, with their family, with the videos, including the mobile phone, which most of the migrant parents don't want to part with. They think that it is for safety. But those are things that are a distraction. So as a parent, when it comes to those technology things, they are not being used well, and it is the parent's duty to manage them, help the child to manage them. The teacher's job are purely to teach and do what they can in the school. Outside that, it is the parents. And that is one thing as a parent that I would do differently. My first two children never had the opportunity to use a mobile phone until they were 18. The other one was 20 years. The third born was given a mobile phone when it was 15. I had to confiscate it. The younger one was given a free rein, and I've seen, of course, the distraction from that. So I would share with those three things, and hopefully you can learn from it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Oguna, for your sharing. We believe that in this journey, the teacher take their part. The parents also have big responsibility there to together educate their children and direct them to the path that is suitable for them, or that is what they like to do. So moving on to the Noah, who is the multicultural educator and community relation advisor. We would like to hear from you, Noah. What kind of opportunities are available for migrant children to be actively participate in the schools? You're on mute.
Oh, well, that's, I mean, I think there are quite, depending on where you are, and I think all schools have different activities and opportunities for students to participate. But I mean, it depends on what's available at the school. But I mean, the basic ones would be, you know, there are leadership positions that, you know, students can be part of, like the SRC, where they can, you know, promote that promotes student voice. And there are other activities, you know, you can join sports activities or sports club, and depending on what's available in the school. But beyond the school, there are also like things in New South Wales. We have the arts unit, which presents a number of competitions, like public speaking competitions. There's a multicultural perspective public speaking competition, and there's a multicultural playwrights program that is available, that allows the public speaking multicultural perspective, public speaking is for primary school students, and then you have the multicultural playwrights program, which is for high school students, where students can go in there, and oftentimes at the end of that project, they have a piece or a theatrical production that they've put together that reflects on their experiences as migrants or as people from culturally diverse backgrounds that they can participate in. And there's also another leadership program, is that the ministers DAV's student council, which is, the department's student voice in education and schools. I think that's what it is, and that students can nominate for that and be part of that. And there's the Harmony Day poster competition, that poster and songwriting competition that students can participate in. You can participate individually, or students can participate as a school, as a class, etc., depending on how active the school is in those competitions. And then we also have the calendar for cultural diversity that the department produces, and we'll often usually invite entries from students from all schools to present artworks or on a particular theme, etc., etc. So there are lots of different things that are available out there that students can participate in to feel part of the school and part of the community, that is available, and other external. And I think it's also important for students to participate in community-led activities, because then it encourages them to be part of the community, to be active in the community, to understand the issues that the community is wrangling with, and they can be the voice of the community as they grow and develop. So I think those are the important things that they can be involved in.
Yeah, true. So appreciating the culture that everyone brings in to the school will be like the key to build the unity, right?
Yes.
So yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, we have been listening to the panels that there are a lot of opportunities here in Australia's Australian school for the children and parents to cultivate and explore for their children. So just be out there and explore what you can and what your children want to do. That I think is really important. And also the fee should not be a really big problem for migrant parents now, because we have heard from Noah, from Melina, that there are supports available for them if they are experience financial hardship and things. So there are always support available. Yeah, we were thinking about also the scholarship programs that are available for parents to apply if they experience the hardship. Yeah, and maybe that for the further information for parents to explore as well. So over to you, Charlotte, for the.
Yeah, and would like to request Nicola, if she's still here, to share with us information about one of the scholarship opportunities.
I think she's left.
I think we lost her.
Okay. Yeah, Alfred, did you want to say something? And we want to wrap up now.
Yeah, I will just say a few things and quickly. One, I want to encourage parents to teach children their language. Because one thing that we miss out is we enter a school where the curriculum is totally different from our cultures, and we are totally alienated from our own selves. So we enter schools where we are foreigners. in terms of what's being taught. Everything is just too foreign. So going back home, I would encourage the parents to bring in their cultural values, leave teaching English and all other Australian cultures to us at school, but at home endeavor to teach children your culture and your language. And I'm speaking from experience because I didn't do the same. So that is one. And two, I'm a teacher of diversity. Now every university teaches a unit on diversity for teachers. So we are talking about cultural responsive pedagogies, where we encouraging teachers to diversify their knowledge on different cultures, because Australia is a multicultural society. We can't avoid that. And it is increasingly becoming. And so diversity is big, and it goes far beyond cultures. It goes into different dynamics that are changing. It goes far beyond our gender, our sex, our ethnicity, and our availability of resources. So this topic we are talking about today is so big. I don't know how the facilitators managed to bring it into this small time span, but I'm so grateful to have been part of this, and I look forward for future engagements of the type.
Can I just add one more thing, because I just saw something there on scholarships, and I was going to say that if people aren't aware, there are also, with the Public Education Foundation, there are also scholarships available there for students from primary all the way to university that parents can apply for, that range from $1,000 to $5,000 that students can apply for. And there are also other scholarships that are available for students from institutions like Western Sydney University that offer quite a lot of scholarships for students from refugee and migrant backgrounds who are permanent residents in Australia. So it is, yeah, those things are available for and it's important for parents to know that, and for students themselves to know that those are available. So yeah, if anybody wants any information on that, happy to provide that information.
Mrs. Hong, do you mean to raise your hand there, or?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to thank you so much, for all these wonderful ideas and the knowledge that you have given us. If you can see on your screen now, we have a poll. We would love to know what your experience with this session has been like. We have 3 questions there. And the first one, we're asking you about if the session was helpful to you or not. You can start answering now. The second question, we're asking you the topics that you found most helpful. You can take different options. And the third question, we are asking you, which other topics would you love to know, if in case we are going to have future workshops. So you can answer, and then so that we get to know what your experience has been like. Yeah, thank you so much. Melina, do you have a final word for us and a word?
I just wanted to say thank you for letting me be a part of this. I think it's really difficult as a migrant parent. I'm not a migrant parent, but I think it would be very difficult after working with them to come into a system that is so foreign and not have any support. So I really think I feel very blessed that I've worked in communities such as Mount Jordan, now Emerton, because I feel like I'm making a difference to those people. But thank you for inviting me along today.
Thank you so much. And Awal?
I was just going to quickly add just the importance of parents being involved in their children's educational life, and just knowing what's going on in the school for kids, and being that advocate for them. It's so important, because I personally experienced like a bit of discrimination when I was in high school, and the teachers and the principals didn't really believe in my abilities, and, you know, really discouraged me when I wanted to do certain subjects, and, you know, said that, you know, I wasn't, you know, I couldn't do them. And with the push of my parents and all that stuff, I was able to do those subjects that I wanted to do, and, you know, did really well. So yeah, it's very, very, very important to just advocate for your children and just be that support, because that's so important, because sometimes, yeah, they are faced with discrimination in the schooling system. And yeah, so I'll just leave you with that. And also thank you guys for running this workshop. It was really great hearing from all the different people within the educational system. It was very insightful and eye-opening. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That's really beautiful, and that's really empowering for us to, you know, to hear where our children are not believed in. We can believe in them as parents, and we can support them, you know, to progress and to keep aspiring, you know, to do subjects that they would love to do. I see a comment from Queening there saying very great symposium, really in-depth teaching and insights. I see Daisy. Daisy, do you want to say something, or Omo? Yes, Daisy. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say thank you for the symposium. It was really educational. Okay.
About Omo, Queening?
Yeah, I already wrote my comments. It was really good to hear from so many perspectives, from teachers, even principal and students. So yeah, I feel more empowered. I don't yet have a baby, but soon. So I'm so excited to hear everything today.
Fantastic, fantastic. So unless there is any other question, I really want to say a big thank you to our speakers, a big thank you to all the participants. And when we invite you, please allow to come again. And thank you so much for spending some time and for participating in the discussions. We will communicate to you when we have something else. Thank you so much to the facilitators, Winnie and Thea, and for organizing. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.